to another episode of Collider Jedi Council. I am Kristian Harloff, a.k.a. Darth Harloff, and this is the show where we talk, guess what, Star Wars. That's right, everything in the world of Star Wars, we're going to talk about it. And joining me on the council today, first, you know him, Obi-Wan Kenobi himself, John Campea is here.
Hey, you doing, everybody? So many cool things to talk about this week. I'm very excited to get going on this. And our first post-Freddie Prinze Jr. Jedi Council.
Oh, man, if you have not
watched... How good was that last week?
If you have not watched that episode with Kanan himself, Freddie Prinze Jr., please do that. Also joining us on the council today, he is our contributor on Rebels After Show, as well as his second time on the council. It is the Grand Moff Griffin, David Griffin.
Thanks for having me, Grand Moff. I love that name.
I love Grand Moff Griffin.
It's great being with the Star Wars Rebels recap team.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. If you haven't watched our recap of the most recent episode of Rebels, it's up on Collider right now, so go and check that out. Okay, so if you guys do not know how this works, the first thing that we talk about here in the land of the Star Wars show is Star Wars movie news. This is everything that happens in the world of the films, whether it is the anthology films or the saga films, whatever it is in the world of the movies, we are talking about it on this show. Now, Mark 2D2 is not here today. The Grand Moff will be giving us all the topics today. David, what do we have first?
Gentlemen, I give you four new character posters revealed for the Star Wars Force Awakens, and they are gorgeous. They are brilliant. My favorite is Rey. I still think she's going to have the staff when she ever gets her lightsaber, if that does happen. She's got the double-sided like Darth Maul. They are beautiful looking. Of course, I'm going to want to throw it to you and ask you what you think of these gorgeous new posters. Kristian, what do you think about these new posters?
I love them, and we were able to talk about them on Movie Talk yesterday as well, and I think that these are absolutely just gorgeous to look at because I think that they tell so much about the characters. I think that just one little shot, there's so much in what their purpose serves in the overall story. I agree with you, David. I think to me, Rey is the one that stands out the most because we keep looking, what's that staff all about? Whose is it? Is it Plagueis's? She's made reference on it so many times about the staff. You see it. It's featured, and everything she's in is that staff, and there it is. Boyega with the lightsaber. They're showing, I said it yesterday, I think it's a bit of a tease. I don't know if he's necessarily a real Jedi, but they're really showing him that he's learning one way or another, and I love Han Solo. It's classic Han, but Leia's the one that stands out to me, too, is because of her place in the Resistance, of what she's going to be doing, and you got that classic Star Wars in the back. But, John, you talked about these a little bit yesterday as well too, but what are your overall thoughts of the pictures?
These are beautiful. I teased a little bit, I said, except they're a little too busy. No, the one face, and there's an artistic theme that goes throughout all of them, and that is whether it's the staff, the lightsaber, the gun, or that classic Star Wars and Hoth Battle Station strategy board there that we have running through Leia. I love that runs across the close-up of all the faces, the weapon, or in Leia's case something else of their choice. It's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. And we brought this up on Movie Talk yesterday, but the funny thing to me is, now some people are suggesting to me there might also be a Kylo Ren one floating out there. I'm sure we would have found out by now, but let's just take these four as the four. I find it very interesting that these four are the four. If you're just putting out four character posters, maybe more will be coming. But even if there are more coming, these are the first four they're putting out. And what do we have? We have the two most significant characters in the movie. We got Rey and Finn. And then we have Han and Leia. And I think we doubted, or maybe questioned, how big of a role will Han actually have in this movie. That started to get answered more and more when he popped up in the trailer. Chewie, we're home. I mean, that felt great.
Decent.
That wasn't. Thank you so much. And then a lot of us were wondering, well, how much will Leia really be in it? And I think the fact that, number one, and we brought this up in Movie Talk yesterday, that Leia is one of the four character posters, and number two, that new international poster for Star Wars The Force Awakens that came out, same poster with about 7 fewer characters, including no Poe Dameron.
Right.
But Leia's still on it. That is all starting to suggest to me that Leia may be playing a bigger role in this film than I initially thought.
Look at, too, I love that, I don't know if that's an earring or an earpiece, but it looks like she's the tactician in this one. You see her in the room, almost reminds me of the...
She's in command.
She's in command.
The new Mon Mothma.
Yeah. It looks like she's the one, not just... I mean, we know she can get her hands dirty in the comic books. Like, she goes on missions, but it looks like here, she is taking a back seat and, just organizing everything.
Yeah, and, it's funny that, John, I agree. I think that she's going to have a bigger part for sure, but what this also does is it shows you those are the old, these are the new. And when you see...
Side by side,
and when you see those two... the prominent female character of the original trilogy and then the prominent character of the new trilogy. There they are. And now I don't necessarily think that Finn and Han Solo link up as far as parallel as to similarities in their character, but I think that, you know, these are the four people that it's here's the baton. Kid.
And of course,
Go.
it's mother and daughter.
False.
It's mother and daughter.
I disagree. But we forgot the percentage again last week.
We'll get to
cannot
that
forget it
later.
this
We
week.
won't forget this time.
Yeah. All right, David, what's next?
Next news topic, we are talking film, specifically 70 millimeter. This is not IMAX 70 millimeter. This is ultra wide, you know, Panavision, like Ben-Hur, 1959. The question now is, though, it's only going to be 11 screens. So do we care about, or not do we, I guess I should say, people are watching this video very well versed in movie knowledge and know what they're talking about, but general public, 70 millimeter. Quentin Tarantino's making a big deal of that for The Hateful Eight. It's going to be in 50 theaters worldwide. This is only going to be in 11 here in the United States. Is this a big deal, 70 millimeter, do you think, Kristian?
I don't know if it's a big deal. I mean, I think that it was shot for 70 millimeter. The movie, like JJ said, it, you know, how it was really shot was supposed to be. So I think that you're going to benefit more visually from seeing it in 70 millimeter, but not everybody's going to be able to do that. Do I think it's going to take away from the experience? No. But I want to see it in 70 millimeter. Somebody had sent me, a fan out there had actually did like a kind of side by side of what it would look like, and it's just more to it. You know, there's more that you get to see. Your eye will be stimulated more in the 70 millimeter. Now, but we're not all going to get that. So I'm not upset, but I still would like to see it.
Sorry, the reason why I brought up Ben-Hur is because Ben-Hur is one of the wider prints ever made.
Ever
so that's
made,
why that's why I brought up Ben-Hur.
Yeah, is it interesting? Yes. Is it kind of cool? Yes. The way you phrase the question, is it a big deal? No. They may have shot 70 millimeter, but they totally shot this with the traditional theatrical aspect ratio in mind, because they know that's where the vast majority of the people are going to see this film. So is it cool? Is it interesting? If I had a choice one afternoon between a 70 millimeter screening and right beside that is another theater in a traditional screening, and it's the same price and I can walk in either, I'll wander into the 70 millimeter one. Right. But is it a big deal? Nah, absolutely not.
I think that's why it's only on 11 screens. I think a lot of people aren't looking for that.
Yeah, I think that's what it is, and it's a little more expensive too. Right. All right, David, what's next?
Next topic, we are going to potential spoilers in the Duracell battery commercial. Boo, boo,
we think.
Yeah, we think possible spoilers. The article was talking about specifically Rey here. We see Rey, a girl who could be Rey, this little girl.
Surely dressed as Rey.
Surely dressed as Rey, using Force powers.
Yeah.
Now, for me, what stood out for me in this commercial more than Rey was C-3PO's red arm. Now, the Duracell commercial has the copper part, and there's just the one they're advertising has a red segment to it. Not trying to get too specific about batteries. So I don't know if C-3PO's arm is going to be red in the film. I didn't know that. Okay, so I thought that was kind of interesting, because I didn't know that. I haven't seen that in any of the trailers yet.
Well, they've had them in toys and stuff too, but then it was confirmed in Jason Fry's Weapon of a Jedi novel, the young reader.
And there have been still images as
well. There have been,
yeah.
but in Weapon of a Jedi, there's a picture of him with the red arm as he's telling the story about Luke Skywalker too. So whether or not he lost it in a mission or whatnot, but again, you're right, they're confirming it in this commercial. But I have gotten so many tweets and phone calls from my brother about, what do you think about that commercial? Rey's going to use the Force. Right. Let's look at it first of all, if it is a spoiler, right? Is anybody surprised that Rey's going to use the Force? I mean,
some people might
really?
be.
I'm not. I mean, I guess I think that it's kind of hidden. I mean, it's kind of hinted at this point that she's going to be somewhat have Force powers, but I say don't read. I'm going to play the role of John Campea here, and I'm going to say don't read into this. It's a battery commercial. Because the same thing is, who is the kid playing? Is the kid Luke Skywalker, or is he? Why aren't we reading into him? Just because we don't know who he's dressed like. He was dressed like someone else too. So, I personally don't think this was a spoiler.
I will play the role of Kristian Harloff and say there is something to this. I was actually quite fascinated. Now, I completely agree with Kristian's impersonation of me. Let's not read too much into it. But that being said, the fact that she is dressed up like Rey, I mean, you have the Snowwalkers, the AT-ATs doing what they're supposed to be doing. Right. You have the kid dressed as Jedi doing what he's supposed to be doing. You don't have droids out there force pushing people away. Mm-hmm. The kid dressed as Rey goes out, and we first get an inkling of she does the force push on the storm. I think it was a stormtrooper that she force pushed away. And I find that fascinating. And here's why I find it fascinating. Because as you said, is any of us at this table going to be surprised to find out that she is a significant Force user in this movie? No, won't be surprised at all. I'm actually anticipating it and I'm expecting it. I do think there are some people out there who have no idea. But why it becomes fascinating to me, and this is the assumption we're operating on right now, if Rey does end up being a Force user in this movie, whether it's Jedi or just Force sensitive or whatever, I find it fascinating that they have hid that fact from all of the official marketing, all of the official trailers they've given us. Even on starting at D23, when they gave us that Drew Struzan poster, we see Finn with the lightsabers. Like, whoa, wait a minute, that's new. They have showed us nothing of Rey being a Force user until a Duracell commercial. That I find fascinating. So if she actually is that, this is a strange thing for Lucasfilm to be doing. Or maybe it's a part of their master. Maybe they knew idiots like us would sit here and make a big deal out of it and talk about it all excited. David, you said, do you think this is foreshadowing the Rey's a Force user in the movies?
I don't think. I think it's just a fun commercial. Again, like you said, John, I wouldn't be surprised if we do see Rey use the Force, but I just think it's a fun commercial. Honestly, it reminded me more of Battlefront. Because I played the Battlefront beta, so I'm seeing the AT-ATs up there firing down. I see the snow, and they get the snow troopers in their outfits. So I'm just thinking, I think more Star Wars Battlefront than I do even the movie.
But let me ask you this, Kristian.
Except for the Red Arm, because I didn't know about those.
Right.
I didn't know about that.
So let's say we go in to see The Force Awakens, and Rey is a Force user, and we see her use the Force. At that point, then, did Lucasfilm make a mistake by making our first revelation to that thing in a Duracell commercial as opposed to an official trailer, or is this brilliant?
I would go more to the brilliant stitch, because we're talking about it. Our viewers are talking about it too, but there are many people who are just watching and go, "Oh, there's a battery commercial," and they're not reading into it.
Right.
And they just see it. They see a girl with a lightsaber using the Force, and they go, "Oh, all you guys out there are going, that's Rey, that's Rey." But there's millions of people out there that
true. Good point.
Just saw a battery commercial.
And just think, this commercial is so brilliant because it's selling everything. This looks like the cover for the Twilight Battlefront, book that we're going to talk about later. It looks like the Battlefront video game coming out. Kids are going to get lightsabers, going to get costumes for Halloween just passed. I mean, it's a great commercial because it just sells everything that is Star Wars, not just batteries. Yeah,
okay,
great marketing tool.
David,
and I think it is, and I do think it is a leak. I do think
it is a leak.
Oh, okay.
I think it's a spoiler. I think, and
do you think it was done intentionally or by accident?
I think it was done intentionally.
Okay,
Lucasfilm doesn't do many things by accident.
You're right. I would agree. If it was done. If it was done on at all, it was done on purpose.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Totally.
Okay. David, what's next?
We're going to talk about Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford is in a hilarious interview with Jimmy Kimmel. Please go online and check that out. Dressed as a hot dog. And as you can see in the picture, not just he's a hot dog, but he also has the nose of a dog, too. So he went all out for this. If you watch the interview, he seemed a little bit off, Harrison Ford. I don't know. He was a little loopy.
Stoned.
Always seems a little bit off.
Loopy. Of course, you have Jimmy Kimmel dressed as Princess Leia. And Han, call him Han. Call him Han. Han gives his backing. He says, "You will not be disappointed in this film. You're going to enjoy it." He said it's very, very good. Kristian, do you buy his statements?
I actually went on. I saw this. First of all, I thought it was a great interview. I love his relationship with Jimmy Kimmel. He seems to, because Harrison Ford is not known for being super open and fun in interviews. It's not his thing. He doesn't like it. But there's something with Jimmy Kimmel. He has had a lot of fun doing these interviews. At the time when he's yelling at Chewie in the audience, he's done these fun interviews with Jimmy Kimmel.
She was my wife.
Yeah, and there's another.
Great.
There's another one here to where he's having a lot of fun. I love it. He burps like halfway through it. It's like, oh, sorry, and then I think Jimmy Kimmel called him a beer sausage or something. It was really funny. I actually went to the comment section right away and I said, I believe him. I buy what he's saying because he's also been vocal and started. He wasn't going to come back for a while. He doesn't want to. He wanted to distance himself from the Star Wars world as well too. And when he talks, I mean, he's a brilliant actor. So if he wanted to convince me that a turd was something special, he could do it. But I don't think that was the case. I think that he was legitimately, there was something special of him being involved and him being in this movie. The way that he was answering the questions, I was looking for it. I was looking for cracks. I was looking for, that's just a salesman. Mm-hmm. It seemed genuine to me. What'd you think?
To completely support everything you're saying, the 2 times I have sat down and spoke with Harrison Ford, once was for Cowboys and Aliens, and the other time was for that horrible movie with Liam Hemsworth, Paranoia. That was
good
out a couple
Lord.
of years
Yeah,
ago, right?
yeah.
I sat down and talked to Harrison Ford about those two films on 2 separate occasions. And on both occasions, not once, he would talk about a lot of stuff in the movie. He would talk about working with the actors. In Paranoia specifically, he talked about how great it was to work with Gary Oldman again, because once again, they've worked together before, most particularly in Air Force One. He would talk about that. Not once in either of those times that I talked to him did he say, this is a good movie, or I think people are going to enjoy this. Or now he kept his tone very positive and he talked about a lot of different things, but he never came out and said in either of those discussions, this movie's good, which is good because Cowboys and Aliens was dreadful and Paranoia was an embarrassment on the business. So to hear him come out, he is a guy who doesn't just come out, like, he promoted his films, but he's not going to come out and lie about his films.
No.
And for him to come out on Kimmel and say, you're not going to be disappointed.
That's
this is
the
a
words.
good movie.
Those are the words. You're not going to be disappointed because
Yep.
he knows what it means to the fan base. He knows what it means to generations. He knows what it means to choose those words of you will not be disappointed. The expectations are there, and to say that means that he believes this movie is going to meet those expectations. But David, what do you think?
I also loved, he seems like a guy, he's in his 70s. He's reflecting on his life now. I mean, he's had a huge career, one of the biggest careers of any actor in history in terms of financial success of his films. He's asked by Jimmy Kimmel, which guy's better to work with, J.J. Abrams or George Lucas? Who's better as a person?
Yeah.
He says both guys. He's like, I'm thankful for George for everything he's done, Han Solo, Indiana Jones. And then J.J. has kind of brought him back into the midst of just this chaos and this frantic hysteria that fans are loving Star Wars right now. So I think he's just very grateful. I thought that was my favorite part of the interview, was just his answer on how reflective he is over his whole career. He's had a huge career. He's just part of all these major franchises. I mean, most actors don't get that opportunity.
And when
at 73 to come back and do something like that again.
Yeah, and to have that, and here's the thing, you go back to D23, which I know most of you guys weren't able to be there for that, but when you go back to D23, when he came out on stage there, you can tell, and unfortunately he couldn't be at Star Wars Celebration, so and that's because of a little air incident. Yeah. But he comes out on stage at D23. And I remember you, me, and Mark, we were sitting together and we all said, he looks happy.
Yeah.
He didn't look like a guy.
Taken back, yeah.
Because trust me, I've seen him at press events, and you can tell when Harrison Ford is there because he's supposed to be there.
Right.
He came out on that stage with JJ and John Boyega and Daisy.
Yeah.
He came out on that stage with them, and he looked happy.
Yeah.
He looked like this is something he has enjoyed again being a part of.
Yeah.
And
JJ made it fun. It seemed like that
He
was
did. He
that's
really
the
did.
word from everybody that talks to too. And it doesn't seem like just big press release came out and said, say you had fun.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like that was
No.
the case. It seemed like everyone, even when JJ was during that little thing they showed at Comic-Con, where he's like, we're making episode 7. He's like a kid, like the way we would be. Like, we're making episode 7. And then I think everyone felt that. And I think that Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill, they were all treated with such respect and such an honor for everything that they meant.
Really did.
That's gonna carry over. So of course he's happy. Of course that's why I buy it.
Yeah. I'm completely on board with that.
All right, David, what's next?
We're talking Chewbacca, specifically Peter Mayhew did an interview. I'm not even going to try. Those are awesome. I can't even do that. An interview in an Australian magazine. Peter Mayhew talking about working with the young actors of The Force Awakens. Now, the most interesting thing about this article I want to talk to you gentlemen about is Daisy Ridley, and he calls her solid, which not in solid like she's solid. You know what I'm saying? Like she's good.
Stiff almost.
Stiff.
Yeah.
And I guess she was even pulled aside by her agent at one point, saying like, look, need to loosen up, like relax, like enjoy. Because I guess Boyega, he said it's fun to work with. He's got that comedic, spirit about him. But he called her, said she's a little stiff, but he's excited to see her grow. So I'm going to be curious to see her performance in this film. Did that get worked out before, or are we going to see that in future films, her loosening up a bit? If we're still going to see that stiffness or that solidness that Peter Mayhew's talking about?
Well, let's not take too much merit. Look, I love Peter Mayhew. He's a classic character of all time. The poor guy can barely stand. So I don't know how much he actually saw of her acting all the way through. But he compared her to Natalie Portman's acting in the prequels, and I love Natalie Portman, but that was the definition, the Wikipedia definition of stiff was Natalie Portman. So, but the way to me, he took some shots at her. It seemed like in this interview was interesting, but he gave a lot of respect to Harrison Ford and the camaraderie and the respect and the advice that Harrison has given him over the years. And like you said,
almost like a director. Harrison's almost like a little director.
Yeah, and the nice words that he gave to Boyega and his fun personality. And he did seem like he took some shots. And I don't know, maybe they just didn't get along on the set. I don't know, but he said that in interviews now she seems to have loosened up and is more fun. But also another definition of what solid can mean is just super professional. But you have to realize something. This is this girl's first movie, big movie, and it's Star Wars. It's the most anticipated movie of all time. Of course, she's going to walk in there and be and try to like show a confidence to herself and a personality. Like this is the only time I'm hearing about any reports of her being anything except great and lovely and positive. But I don't know. I don't know how much merit I take into, because I don't know how much he could have actually seen. Maybe there's one particular scene on the Millennium Falcon, or how much he actually shot as Chewbacca is another thing that should be debated. He can't, like I said, he can't. We've seen him at these events.
Always has a cane.
He cannot move.
Yeah.
He's a big man, and his legs have kind of gone out on him. So I don't know how much he actually saw. But am I nuts? Do you buy this?
Well, first of all, let's go back to this wide shot here. Is it just me, or does Mayhew look like he just finished a set with Slayer in that picture? I mean, that's look. I believe it. I do, because partially because of one of the things you were just bringing up. You're walking into Star Wars. Yeah. I can stand on a stage in front of 5,000 people and talk comfortably, all that kind of stuff. I can get on cameras, and all of us in this table can. If you told me I was going to be playing even a cameo bit background spot in a Star Wars movie, you bet your ass I'm going to be stiff. I'm going to be really stiff. It's nerves. It's totally going to be nerves. And so I don't doubt the report at all.
By the way, meet Harrison Ford.
Yeah. By the way, here's Harrison Ford, and you're in the greatest story of all time ever put to film. And okay, so there's that. That's number one. Number two is, I read some people online tweeting me, asking, should we be worried then that the performance from Rey isn't going to be that great if she was still? Well, no. Why? Because J.J. Abrams is not George Lucas, and George Lucas is a one of a kind in many, many ways. Getting good performances out of his actors is not his strength, because to him, you tell the story with the visuals and with the editing. He almost doesn't even care about the performances, as you can see in the prequels. But J.J. Abrams is very much an actor's director. Yeah, we think of him with his imagination, but he gets into the trenches with his actors, and you can bet your ass not one scene got filmed where JJ said, okay, cut, let's strike, move on to the next scene. Not one scene with her did that happen that JJ didn't feel that was the performance we needed. Right. He's not George Lucas in that way. So I have no fears whatsoever about the performance we're going to see on screen. Do I believe that she was probably stiff and nervous a bit? I'll buy into the story. I'll take Peter Mayhew on his word on that, but I really don't think it's anything for us to worry about. Nerves, performance anxiety, this is the biggest thing. Not only has she ever been in her career, it is the biggest thing she will ever be in her career. So you got to give her a little forgiveness to that, and it's not going to reflect in the performance. Why? Because J.J. Abrams won't let it.
I agree. David, what do you think?
I have to agree with you guys. I hope that. I think JJ is a good director. I think they're going to work through it. Yeah, and then Peter Mayhew, he's not like, if it was Liam Neeson saying that, then he was doing scenes with her constantly, or I should say, if
who's James from the Inside the Actors Studio, the host.
Lippy.
Lipton. If he was on stage, if he was on set and said, she seems a bit stiff, I go, maybe. Peter Mayhew said it. Whatever.
Right. Okay, what's next?
We are going to going from the actors to more of the physical actor. Oh, knock down a stormtrooper's down.
I used the Force.
I didn't do it. I didn't touch anything. We're going to talk about Admiral Akbar. Oh, it's a trap. That's a horrible impersonation. Tim Rose specifically talks about being back as Admiral Akbar. And also, the interview is interesting because it's a very short interview, but he didn't confirm or deny that Akbar would be an admiral. One of the final questions in the interview asks about, is he still going to be an admiral? He's like, well, a lot of stuff has happened since, the old movie, so possibly he could be anything. So we don't know, but he's coming back as Akbar. He said his experience was he got an email or something with some non-disclosure agreement from Disney, and as soon as he just saw the Disney logo, he immediately knew that it was for Star Wars. Yeah. So he's coming back. He was in Return of the Jedi as Admiral Akbar. So, Kristian, what do you think about the news that he's going to be playing Akbar?
Well, we had talked a while ago because, again, thank you to StarWarsNewsNet.com, who they put together all these stories. They do these special articles, and they feature Jedi Council every week. So thank you to them. But they had actually put out a leak of a picture of him that Akbar was coming back. Him and Neemnub, they had leaked that months ago. And so now it's pretty much confirmed. We talked recently that Tim Rose had talked as well. The thing that I thought was interesting, being the fact that I'm a canon junkie, is that he said nonchalantly, well, Akbar did start off as a slave in Jabba's palace. I'm like, wait, he did? What? When did that happen? I'm like, I didn't know that. That's interesting. And the fact that he came, he's like Maximus almost, to where he's become what he has done for the Mon Calamari doesn't really happen much, and he did that with a bunch. He brought in a bunch of his boys with him too. So what I didn't realize too, and call me ignorant, I will definitely say that is the case. I didn't realize that it wasn't a dude in a suit. I didn't realize that it was puppeteer. I always thought that's what I always thought. I always thought that there was a dude in a suit moving around, and the fact that and I had said not too long ago, well, look, if Tim Rose does come back, they could probably find somebody else to do it. I still think that's the case, but not as strongly as I did before, because puppeteers have a very special skill set, and what they do, not like Liam Neeson, they're very different. But what they're able to do with the movements, and you see these guys. I watched a couple of different documentaries on what they're able to do. He knows the character and the movements. This makes me more excited now that I knew that, and I didn't know it. I'm sorry. There's something that I like to admit. I absolutely didn't know that. Did you know that it was a puppeteer and not a guy in a suit?
I think I remember seeing something in the 90s that had something to do with that, but it's not something that's at the front of my head. Here's the interesting thing. The question comes up, is he going to be an admiral? If I'm not mistaken, and I don't give much thought to Aftermath anymore, but there was a scene in Aftermath where there was like a public broadcast.
Yeah.
Like a news, like a CNN of the era. And I believe Akbar was in that. I know Akbar was in one of those broadcasts. And I believe he was referred, it was something like, it was kind of like the equivalent of the commander of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the head of the Joint. It was some kind of title, and I don't know if it was Admiral. Do you remember the scene I'm talking about?
I remember the scene. I don't remember the title, but I mean, because that was only like a couple months afterwards too. So if he moved up the ranks at all, it's not too much up from Admiral at that point. It's only like 3 months after Jedi, but we're talking 30 years. So, and I think that and I still think that there's things that happen. I don't believe that the New Republic, because look at what the form of the government, the way it was from even the prequels until New Hope, or even from episode 1 until episode 4, there were a lot of regime changes. There was a lot of stuff that happened. So we don't know. We know from the canon, from the books, from the comics, that the New Republic was formed. That we are aware of. We also know that Mon Mothma wanted to demilitarize everybody. I believe that happened, and I think that the New Republic is gone too. And I think that he's still out there doing something, and I think he's probably part of the Resistance. What title he has, I don't know.
Or he's like sitting behind a desk and just so frustrated. He wants to get out there and do some action because he's an action guy.
Yeah. How old do they live, those Mon Calamari?
I don't know.
That's a very good question.
I don't know how that skin ages. I mean, he's out of that water for too long. I don't know.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, David, what's next?
All right, we're going to go into, I hope I pronounce this right, Brian Muir. I guess Brian Muir.
I'll say that works.
Muir. Yeah. He's working on Rogue One. This guy is a artist as well as a sculptor. One of the best. Worked on Vader, Alien, first Alien film. And we know that, there's rumors. We don't know. There's rumors that we might see Vader in Rogue One. So it's been some rumors. So we know he's working on Rogue One. He has the Vader helmet. Do you think his role may be in working on Rogue One with Vader?
Well, it's hard to say because he just finished The Force Awakens as well, too, and they brought him in to do stuff there. I think that he's doing an array of stuff. Now, in that, do I think that Vader is one of them? I say yes. Absolutely yes. Vader's got to show up, and why not bring the guy who sculpted his mask? Come on, man, let's do it. Let's bring it on. Let's. You have to have Vader in Rogue One, even if it's for the same amount of time you'll see Luke Skywalker in The Force Awakens. If it's 5 minutes, you have to see Vader in Rogue One. He's going to be. I still think it's the greater fear for whoever, because let's say whoever the main villain is. Ben Mendelsohn, right? Let's say that he's the main villain in Rogue One, and he's hunting down our protagonist the whole entire time. But then, Ben, you're not doing the job. Bring in the closer. Fans go nuts. But I do think that Brian's coming in to work on Vader. John?
There are movies and things like that, whether they be the Star Wars prequels or maybe like the Hobbit films or things like that, where sometimes they force in characters that don't need to be there and shouldn't be there, but they just want to put them in there to see how it all ties together, and this person's here, and it feels out of place and it feels forced and all that kind of stuff. However, when you understand what the premise of Rogue One is, in the era in which it's taking, and what the plot is, and what's at stake, the opposite is true. Vader not being there would feel forced.
Right.
Vader
Pun intended.
not being there would make no sense whatsoever. It's like, why, at the end of the final Hobbit movie, why did Legolas's dad out of nowhere just say, go and find a man named Strider? Like 40 years before it ever was supposed to happen. Like, that was forced. Vader's absence would be that noticeable and that stark. It just makes sense that Vader should play a role in the story. How big or how small is up to the filmmakers.
Right,
that's fine.
right.
But his absence would feel really, really stark. You know, it would just be a mistake.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, Rogue One, they're trying to steal the plans.
Yeah.
Why would the Emperor, of course, have his top enforcer protecting there? At some point, he would be around there, whether overseeing the security or something. He's going to show up. I think.
Will we see Inquisitors at that point?
Yeah.
Will we? I mean, if you're going to send the Inquisitors after a band of rogues like Kanan and Ezra, why wouldn't you send them after some people who are going to steal the plans for the Death Star?
Unless Vader himself is going after them.
Correct.
Right?
Okay, David, what's next?
Next topic's a little bit of a sad one. We're talking about a young man named Daniel Fleetwood. Has a terminally ill illness and only has probably a few months to live. He has surpassed the doctor's predictions, but he wants to see Star Wars: The Force Awakens badly because he's a big fan, as you can imagine he would. J.J. Abrams has done this in the past. I believe in 2012 he did it. I want to get this right. This is important. If you want to support Daniel, this is all from StarWarsNews.net. If you want to support Daniel, make some noise on social media. The hashtag Force for Daniel has been created, and he's already gotten some feedback from Daisy Ridley. Mark Hamill has responded to this. I personally really hope this guy gets to see the film before he passes. I'm hoping for a miracle that he doesn't have to go so young, but if he does, I hope he gets to see the movie. I mean, I don't know. What do you think about this, Kristian? It's a hard topic to talk about.
Yeah, it's a really hard topic. It really got me because, and this is a lot, again, credit to our fans. They were the first ones to make me aware of this.
Me too, yeah.
It broke my heart when I saw it, from not only being, a dad, but also being just as a Star Wars fan and a guy like to hear his passion, like with the first thing, because I'm thinking of myself too. Obviously, I think of my family first, but in my head, I'd be like, I'm not going to be able to see The Force Awakens. It means so much to me as a fan, like everything that it means to him, and this is something that he wants to do, and I think that it just shows what the Star Wars community is all about, that everyone is coming to this kid's aid to make it for a chance for him to see this. I love the fact that Boyega and Ridley and Mark Hamill have done this as well too, because they also they see it. And I think that, and we have a link in the description here if you want to see how you can contribute to Daniel. But yeah, I hope this happens for this guy. I really, really do.
Yeah, it's almost like a life imitating art. It's almost like a real life incarnation of Kyle Newman's Fanboys. In some ways, when you understand how that film first of all came to be. Look, this is one of those situations where I would get it if Lucasfilm and Disney don't make this happen. I'm not going to be one of these guys that jumps up and down and gets really angry at them, because there is a rationale behind that. It's like, at what point then can you say no? I mean, if you say yes to one person, do you have to have every movie that you come out that you make certain things, slippery slope arguments and all that kind of stuff? So I'm not going to hold it against Lucasfilm and Disney if they don't make it happen, but make it happen. I mean, this is... Look, I understand the whole slippery slope thing. If I say yes to one person, I have to say yes to everybody. But even in the midst of that and understanding that, every once in a while, you just got to say yes. Once in a while, you just say yes. And then I can already hear what people opposed to that would say. But then people are going to say, you did it for him, why won't you do it for me? I get it, but you're big boys. You can deal with that when that comes. This is one of the situations, look, you got a guy who loves Star Wars so much, is one of the people that fuels Star Wars passion within his social circles, which then fuels their social circles, and so on and so forth. And it looks like he may not make it to The Force Awakens. The film is done. It isn't a big thing. There's going to be press screenings.
And there apparently have been employee cuts and stuff.
There have been employee cuts. There have been cuts. Just get him to sign whatever. That's fine.
Right.
Make it happen. Get this guy in and let him see the film.
Yeah, I agree with you. And by the way, if you want to donate to assist with any of Daniel's medical bills, please visit the GoFundMe started by his wife Ashley, and we will put that in
our description below. Please go down and if you have to pause the video right now, pause the video, go down to the description right now. The video won't go anywhere. Click that link, open it up in a new window, make a donation, and then we'll be here. Come on back.
Okay, let's now move on to our next section of the show. If you're not familiar with it, then you might get a little jarred by me saying, what's the deal with canon? That is everything happening in the world of Star Wars that is not necessarily the movies, but ties back to them. This could be the comic books, the video games, the novels, television shows, anything that is part of the timeline of Star Wars into the stories that we know, of stories in the past. We will talk about it here. Few things to talk about in the world of canon today. Gentlemen, I'll bring this one up first because David and I spoke about this yesterday on the Rebels recap. John was not there. So we are going to be talking about Rebels. This was the fourth episode of the new season, and we got a chance to talk about it. John, what were your thoughts on the latest episode of Rebels?
Overall, not my favorite episode of the season so far. Right. But this is what I told you when we saw each other after first watching it. I said the first 5 minutes made the entire episode worth it to me. Because what did we see in those first 5 minutes? We saw Ezra acting a lot like a certain dude named Anakin,
right,
complaining and whining and seeing, not what Yoda would call the mold of a Jedi at that age. And I think more and more, you and I have speculated a lot about Ezra's ultimate destiny. And we both kind of lean towards, we think he's going dark side at some point. And I think very subtly, Dave Filoni is very smart in how what little doses he's giving it to us in. But those scenes by themselves made me go even more, I see this coming and it ain't going to be good.
Now, what did you think of Hondo? Because I was curious about that. Hondo was a character, again, you talk about Dave Filoni, to where Hondo was a beloved character on the Clone Wars. He was this scoundrel pirate who you couldn't trust, but then sometimes you could if it benefited him. And he was ruthless at times, but he was also very funny and charming at times. And now we got to see him as an old man. How did you feel about Hondo? Because I know you didn't really necessarily like the Clone Wars.
I don't want to kill you per se. You seem like decent fellows.
my friend.
Oh, Calrissian.
He was fine. It was fine. It felt. We were talking a little bit earlier in the show.
Kiddish?
Felt a little forced.
Okay.
Felt a little forced, and the storyline itself felt kind of weak. If you're going to use, I'm not against him bringing in the Hondo character because there are some very cool things you could use him for. I just didn't think what they used him for in this particular episode was very compelling, and it almost felt like a little bit of a waste to me.
I see. Here's the thing, though, with that point, and last season 1, when I found an episode that it was kind of a little bit of a filler episode, it always tied back in
later.
That's one of the Rebels is one of those rare shows to do that, because I remember there was a scene where they went to this, it looked like an Aliens episode, and it was just like a kind of this abandoned place, and that's ultimately where they wind up battling the Inquisitor down the line, and then they set that up. So I think there's always, even though right now it might seem like it was a waste, it might play into the ultimate storyline.
It could possibly, yes.
If you want to see David and I, we spoke with John Roca actually as well too on Rebels. That's up on the channel right now. Make sure that you check that out if you haven't. If you haven't watched our recaps, we talk about it every week. Go and check out our thoughts. We'll be back next week to talk about episode 5. Okay, moving on. David, what's next?
Got some concept art talking about Fifth Brother, the gray humanoid Inquisitor, the big guy. Didn't make the cut for The Force Awakens, so they put it in Star Wars Rebels, which is great because he's very imposing. He's a very imposing figure. I got to see him in last week's episode. This isn't the first time they've ever done this. One of my favorite characters in the Clone Wars is Asajj Ventress. I thought she's awesome. She was supposed to be one of the ideas for a villain instead of doing Count Dooku. They had this idea for Asajj Ventress. Lucas is like, oh, cool look, but no, I want to go with a Dooku instead. But she got put on. She got her own book. out right now, and she's a fascinating character. So I don't have a. I think it's great that they use this concept art because use it for other things. Because these artists, if you ever watched the behind the scenes on these Star Wars, DVDs, these artists come up with some incredible ideas.
Yes.
You see Lucas or now JJ come along and be like, I don't like that, but I'm like, oh, I don't like that, But the cool thing is they don't throw them away for good. They just
Filoni
reuse
licks
them.
his chops and goes, I'll take it.
I'll take them,
it.
and they use them. So, I mean, what do you think about Fifth Brother? Or I don't know. I mean, what do you think? Could he have been in The Force Awakens?
Well, I mean, here's the thing, though. Remember, going back, this is a very similar story to if going also to those Star Wars DVDs, the special features. When they were doing Darth Maul, the first instruction that George Lucas gave the artists was, draw the worst thing in your nightmares. That was kind of instruction, and they drew this. What you can clearly see was the early stages of Darth Maul, and Lucas then looked at it and went, "That might be a little too much," as it was horrifying, totally horrifying. And then they scaled it back to what we now know as Darth Maul. I got a feeling there might have been a little bit of that in this because first of all, I like the existing look of the Fifth Brother. I think he looks really cool, all that kind of stuff. Now, this image here is a beautiful image, but I think understanding that aside from 40-ish-year-old guys like us who also really appreciate this film, they also have a younger demographic that they also have to keep in mind. I have a feeling at some point there's discussion that might be a little too unsettling. That might be a little too scary.
Oh, I don't know.
You don't think so? I
don't know.
That
He
seems
looks
like
older
something,
in this one.
It
It
seems
does.
like something like out of
I
a John
just-
Carpenter movie to me a bit there.
but I think that I could be completely wrong. I think that was a design for Snoke. I think that was a design because if you look at the Knights of Ren and the way that they're dressed, looks like that as well too. He looks like
Because Snoke is Plagueis, and that's not what Plagueis looks like.
You just answered my other question because maybe they wanted to go back to the fact that because the question is we don't know in the history of, if you don't know who Darth Plagueis is in the book, because in episode 3 they just mentioned Darth Plagueis. So
the master of Palpatine of the
as of right now, because that James Luceno book is not canon, if they wanted to make Darth Plagueis a man,
he could be anything.
He could be anything. He could be Yoda's species if you wanted to. But if they wanted to, they liked what they did in that book that Luceno did, and they wanted to make him the species of Mune, then maybe there was a discussion that said, well, that looks. We actually think that we want Plagueis to go more, looking more like Mune, like you said before. What Lucas did with Darth Maul is everybody had these concepts, and he was a concept, and they thought, well, that guy's cool. What are we going to do with him? And then Filoni goes, I know what to do with him, and there you go. Because it also he is a Force user. He's not maybe as powerful as that necessarily the artist sketched him out to be, but it's interesting. I love that they do this, and the other thing that they do, especially in Rebels, it seems like all over the place they've been doing this now is they're using a lot of the old school McQuarrie art for everything, and like everything you see in Rebels now, there's like old school
lightsabers they're that thin, super thin blade,
yeah,
like
the
they're off
classic
McQuarrie.
original designs.
the stormtrooper with the lightsaber, now in Force Awakens, they're really going back to McQuarrie art, and I love it. So I like that they do this, and I love the look of the Fifth Brother, and I love the look of this concept art. Okay, what's next?
So we're going to talk about one of the world of comic books. Jason Aaron's one of my favorite writers right now. He's been writing the main series Star Wars for Marvel Comics. This is issue number 11. Our heroes are in trouble. They're in trouble. We got Luke's under the control of a Hutt, has the Force to fight in the pits against this crazy-looking monster. We got Chewie fighting Dengar. We got Han and Leia hurrying up, trying to save everybody with Han's not really wife, fake wife kind of wife. I mean, it's an exciting comic book series. I've been reading this for.
What did you think of this issue?
It was great. It was exciting. They go by so quickly.
Yeah.
Especially when you're paying $4 an issue. I'm on a little more pages, but that's okay. I mean, it just goes by so quickly, but it's exciting. It's fun. Jason Aaron's one of my favorite writers. Look up any of his books. His run on Thor. He's an amazing writer for Marvel. But I'm saying buy this. It's worth reading. I
started with Star Wars comic, and I've said this many times in the show. The Star Wars comic felt like people who were trying to write Star Wars, and it was just like, man, just give me the Vader comic, give me the other stuff. I'll just read it, and then it started getting significantly better, and it got really some of my favorite were the Obi-Wan Kenobi ones, and they've just gotten better and better. And this arc here with Luke with the Hutts has become really good. This issue felt the most like Star Wars
Yeah.
that I've felt in this entire run so far. Like you said with Dengar, the way they brought him in there, and
Great fight between him and Chewie.
great fight,
Yeah.
and like
Great fight.
and you get an answer. You finally get a full-fledged answer with Han Solo's wife, quotes, and you have more with it's dynamic of what was happening with the 3PO and Chewie there at first, but what's going on with Luke and him figuring out. I love that line about, even the Hutt says to him at one point, he's like, there's a lot of anger in him. Maybe that's why he didn't become a Jedi.
And there's this character called the Games Master. There's a guy who's been training him, who seems to be...
Well, there's a reveal in there.
Right, it's a reveal.
Yeah, I don't want to
give it away. We won't spoil that
Yeah.
reveal, because I guess that's the big thing of this issue. But he feels like, in the beginning anyway, that he was, almost like a mentor to Luke. Like, kind of training him. Almost he's like respects him, for being... He's not a full-fledged Jedi yet,
Right.
but he can tell he has potential.
Right.
There's a lot of good characters, too, in such a, like I said, short issue.
It was one of these ones that I was, like you said, it's a short issue.
You read it less than like 10 minutes.
I
You just
went
flew
it
through
so
Yeah.
fast because I was so into it, and I was looking at everything. The way the artwork's amazing, the story is really it's progressing, and it's going to link back into Vader, which is getting significantly better as well too. Because there's going to be a run where the Vader comic blends in with this one. So if you're not reading Star Wars, I would recommend it, because where we are right now with issue 11, it really picks up. There's a couple that you got to kind of go through, but it's well worth it.
Spoiler: neither Luke nor Han nor Leia nor anybody dies.
What?
I wouldn't say anybody.
They make it to the movie.
I wouldn't say
all
anybody.
the characters you know from the
Yeah,
movies.
right.
None of them die.
Okay, what's next?
We're going from the world of comics to the world of novelization. We're talking about the new Force Awakens. Oh, wait, yeah, Force Awakens novel will be released.
Yep.
Battlefront, Twilight Company. It's everything's Journey to the Force Awakens.
Not Twilight Company. No, Twilight Company's Battlefront. This is the Force Awakens.
Oh, novel. I'm sorry.
novelization.
Yeah,
Novelization.
Yeah, sorry. Oh.
There was this. You have the wrong link.
No, so it's been delayed. It's been pushed back. It was supposed to come out on the day that the movie was.
It's the day after now.
Yeah, because they didn't want any. They're worried about spoilers. People obviously like going through the book, going to the end, and spoiling some very, close kept secrets that they don't want anybody else to know about.
Yeah, I love what they're doing. They are releasing it the December 18th because, like you said, David, they don't want to give any spoilers.
Right.
I love it. It's the same thing they're doing with the soundtrack, and I think because there are going to be major spoilers that happens, and then there's other new details, and this is something that we're getting the first time with a novelization of a film. Is there's gonna be a lot of new details in the book that can't be in the movie.
Yeah.
But unlike a movie to where, let's say, like The Hunger Games or Harry Potter, like when you see Harry Potter, if something happens in the book and it doesn't happen in the movies or happens differently in the movies, then that's two separate things. Because of the way we are with canon, it's not two separate things. If something happens in the book, it happened in history. That is exciting to me, and I'm thrilled that you can't get it until afterwards, because the second even if I get it beforehand, I'm not picking it up. I'm going to wait. I'm going to see the movie in the theater 175 times, and then I'm going to go, and then I'm going to read the book. But do you think this is a good move?
Absolutely, it's a good movie. And like this thing, I wouldn't even read the first 5 pages.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do anything. This is a really good move because, do you remember not so long ago, just one of my all-time favorite shows is Sons of Anarchy, with the Kurt Sutter
I still haven't
show.
seen it, yeah.
Oh my God, really?
I know.
Binge.
It's
son,
Hamlet.
Binge.
I know.
It's Hamlet. It's a Hamlet and motorcycle
It is
game.
Hamlet
Yeah.
and motorcycle with a lot of vulgarity.
Yeah.
But they had a companion book for the series with Sons of Anarchy, and one book retailer accidentally let the book out a week before the series finale. And so what happens in the series finale, I will not spoil it here, but it's a significant thing that happens in the series finale.
Thank you, Sasha Poe River.
Got out early, and Kurt Sutter, the showrunner, lost his mind and went on this profanity-laced diatribe online about how angry he was, how he was going to have certain people's heads and testicles and all these kinds of things mounted on his wall. But because it will get out.
Right.
If this book gets out, what happens in the book will get out 5 minutes after that book comes out. So I really do like that they have learned lessons from the past, especially like the prequel soundtracks that pretty much gave them...
Qui-Gon's noble end.
Nobody's like, okay, gee, I wonder what happens to Qui-Gon. They have learned their lessons. They're implementing new strategies and safeguards. And you don't have to wait long. You don't have to wait long. They didn't need to wait till December, 30th or
day
January
after.
2nd.
Yeah.
The day after, that's totally fine. It gives everybody who's really going to see it
Movies
a good
out,
enough heads
sorry.
up. Yeah, then you'll be okay.
Just real quick. I don't know why I remember this. For some reason, I think I read Attack of the Clones, the book, before I actually saw the movie.
Yeah.
I don't know when it exactly came out. Did
Books
you?
Definitely came out before, yeah.
I actually enjoyed the books, especially for Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith.
The books were much better.
Yeah, the books were good.
The novelization for Revenge of the Sith is awesome.
Yeah, I thought it was great.
It's awesome.
When I saw the movie, I was like, oh.
There's the conflict inside of Anakin's head. Now the question, I still don't know. There's Del Rey sent out a tweet. This is just another subject here, but Del Rey sent out a tweet last year that the novelizations of the actual films are canon. Now I don't know if that's still the case now, but
Well, I mean, look, if Lucasfilm is following that thing from now on,
yeah.
everything is
But they
canon.
said, but they said movies wise. So the novel, I'd like to actually get a follow up, and we should make some phone calls and try to figure out. I want to see if those are canon. Okay, David, what's next?
All right, now we're going to Battlefront Twilight Company. Now I'm on the right page. Now I know what I'm talking about. Kristian, you got an advanced copy of this.
Yeah.
It just came out November 3rd.
Couple days ago, yeah.
A couple days ago. Came out November 3rd. Okay, so you and I have read a few books. Aftermath wasn't so great. Lost Stars was incredible.
Yeah.
Lost Stars was so
both
good.
those books came out the same day.
I could talk about that book all day.
Yep.
And
honestly.
Aftermath was the one that was pushed, though. That's
Yes,
when we
it
saw when you would go on
was. Yeah.
Amazon and suggested reading. You should read this book, not
Right.
Lost Stars.
Right.
Mistake.
So, is Battlefront Twilight Company more Lost Stars or more Aftermath?
Great question. Before I answer that question, in regards to why it was pushed, you also have to remember that Lost Stars was not a part of the Del Rey. It wasn't part of the Del Rey books. It was Lucasfilm Publishing.
It is canon, though.
Of course,
Yes. Right, okay.
absolutely.
Right.
But Del Rey pushes their books, and not that Lucasfilm doesn't, but it's just not the same way that Del Rey does. And now Del Rey saw what Claudia Gray did, and they signed her on like that. They read
Claudia Gray, author of
Lost Stars, who's
Yeah.
now doing the first novelization that will come out post Force Awakens. That comes out in March. Bloodlines, I believe it's called. So that's kind of an answer to that question. Now, as far as this Alexander Freed Twilight Company, I've been talking about as this book was coming out, we were previewing all the books that were coming out. I said to John, I'm like, I don't care. I don't care about this book. I mean, it's just a novelization. Alexander Freed's never wrote anything, and I've said the same thing about Dark Disciple, and I said the same thing about Lost Stars. It's another really good book. It's a really good book, and it's different though. It's not. I'm not raving about it the way I did Lost Stars. I'm not raving about it the way I did Lords of the Sith, but I have to give so much credit to Alexander Freed in how this is written. It's a very well written book. He's just a video. He's not just that's unfair. He was a video game developer who now was given this task to write a novel. He knows his Star Wars, and it does. The thing is though, as where Lost Stars feels like you're so in the Star Wars universe, it feels like you're in the Star Wars universe here. But this feels like Band of Brothers. This is a war novel. And it gets dark, it gets gritty. The character, it's Nassim. The main character's name. He's not like the gung ho go for the rebellion. He's a soldier. It reminded me of a lot of those World War II shows of just like he's a soldier, he's protecting his company and going on these missions, and there's something that really cool happens of where they get a particular prisoner who helps them do some more. There's not as many like characters the way Claudia Gray in Lost Stars throws in like classic characters and blends in. They are there, they do lend their voices. But I was very surprised with how much I wound up enjoying this book because I thought it was a very well written, good story. I think it's kind of a more standalone story to where like I think like just people in general who are just looking for a good read. I don't know if it furthers the Star Wars experience as much as those other books we talked about. Certainly not Lords of the Sith because it's got Vader in it. But I want to see a little bit more from Alexander Freed for sure. I think you will because this is a great outing for his debut with Del Rey and Star Wars.
It's great timing because in less than 2 weeks we are going to have the new Battlefront game.
Right.
It's exciting times.
John, do you have any interest in checking out? Because this is one of those things, though, too, because there's a difference, though. With Lost Stars, I ran to you. You got to read it. You got to check it out now. Yeah. I think that if you read Battlefront, you would enjoy it. I'm not telling you that you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't. But I think that if you picked it up and you got yourself and you were reading a book, I think that you would wind up enjoying it. but it's not like you're missing out if you don't. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah. It's funny because there are 5 books in the new canon, since the new canon, that I have read. Started off, of course, with New Dawn, that I did not like. Then my next one after that was Tarkin, which I did like quite a bit. Then the next one was Lords of the Sith, which I loved. Then came Aftermath, did not like. Then came Lost Stars, which I did like. So I don't know that there's been one come out that I've been less interested in than Battlefront.
That was how I was the out of all of them. This is one I was least interested in. I'd rank it up there as far as well written and story and engagement.
Where's the timeline?
In between 4 and 5.
It's in between 4 and 5. Maybe that's where a lot of good role-playing campaigns happen, is usually between 4 and 5. I'll probably pick it up. You know, I got to fly to New York, and then for the flight there and back, sure. I'll grab the audiobook and listen to it on the way there and back.
David, are you interested in it?
Yeah, I'm gonna read it 'cause I'm excited for the video game too. I just want to get as much Star Wars as I can, good or bad, before the movie comes out.
All right, if you want to check that out, it is available now. So check out Battlefront by Alexander Freed. Like I said, the next novel I believe that comes out in the new canon is Claudia Gray's Bloodlines, which will be out in March. Sign me up. What is the last story, David, in the world of canon?
World of Canon, last story. We are sticking with Battlefront, ladies and gentlemen. We were talking about Battlefront Jakku, the teaser trailer, very short, but awesome. You see Star Destroyers crashing down. You see that Star Destroyer that's already crashed. That's maybe in one of the books if you read it. You have all this awesome stuff here. And the game, I played the beta. The game is solid. It runs well. If you ever played any of the Battlefield games made by DICE, it plays a lot like that. You run around, you're shooting a big open world. Very smooth. It just looks fantastic. As a video gamer, I'm excited to play this game.
John, what do you think?
It was a really cool little spot. I mean, if it was a 2.5 minute long, it's supposed to tell you a story, I probably wouldn't, but for a short promotional spot, just to give you a taste of what this game is, you're right, seeing the Star Destroyer falling out of the sky and all that kind of stuff, it was very effective. I liked it.
I loved it too, and how it blends into the world of canon is because we do kind of know how that Star Destroyer goes down. We know why that the Empire is there in the first place, and are you ever going to see that develop in the Battlefront game? No, but you kind of know why it's going down and be able to play it and to watch those things happen. It's so fast, but it's just the music and everything to it. It's a great teaser. Okay, now this is the part where we get to you guys. Actually, you know what? No, that is not the case. Today's something a little different. I forgot about that. Today we're bringing back a segment that we haven't had in a little bit, and that is one of Address the Council.
Oh, right.
We are going to address the council today. I almost went right past it, but I can't because last night I added this in at the last minute because the other night I was tweeted out about a particular interview. I'm going to address the council today. There was an interview that happened on Fox News. So they had on this guy Neil Cavuto, who hosts this show, and I forget the woman's name, and they brought on this Star Wars fan. And I sat down, and they talked about The Force Awakens and how The Force Awakens had broken records, and then Neil Cavuto and this woman went on to say how it was an overrated franchise and how things have been done before, and they they just weren't fans of the franchise. Then they asked the guy next to the Star Wars fan if why he was so engaged in it and why he liked it. And for me personally, the way I took it is that they belittled this guy, and the way that when he went to speak, they spoke over him. When I know it was a bit of a friendly conversation too, because he was on there, he knew them, I don't know, but they would ask him certain things, and they would talk over him, and she said, "Oh, good luck with your little movie," and there were just things. I have no problem with the fact that they didn't like Star Wars. Not everybody likes what you like. That's part of it. That's part of life. You have to deal with it. What I had a problem with was the way that they almost were speaking down to Star Wars fans in general. And I think I know there are some people, I particularly think there's one at the table here that thought maybe I'm making a mountain out of a molehill. I just feel, from me personally, that there's a kid somewhere 15, 16 years old that, because I know I met somebody at Collider, when we did our Collider panel, I had someone come up to me and say that his confidence wasn't always there being a Star Wars fan, and he felt that maybe for him that being a Star Wars fan wasn't cool at school, but then he started watching Collider Jedi Council and he got confidence, and now he starts his own blog and he's happy to be a Star Wars fan. And then while watching this interview with this Neil Cavuto guy who was saying that you couldn't, joking to the guy, oh yeah, you were at Comic-Con, so was my 12-year-old kid, playing into this stereotype that only nerds and geeks can like Star Wars. Everyone can like Star Wars. Everyone can be a part of it. To me, what I felt was that they were going away from what made Star Wars special, and it was because they weren't listening. It wasn't because they had a different point of view. They weren't listening to, and to be fair, the guy that they chose thought J.J. Abrams directed Armageddon, so maybe he wasn't the best guy to address this subject. But for me, I think that it's not right to smack onto someone's opinion. If someone has a passion for someone and you don't agree with it, you should say you don't agree with it, but you should listen to the other one's point of view. I don't feel like that was the case, and I felt like it was almost like the two cool kids at school going, all right, nerd, you like Star Wars? I'll tell you why you're wrong, and even if you have any reasons why you like it, we're going to just turn our noses up. And then Neil Cavuto came out and said something else, like, again, like just basically turning his nose on Star Wars fans. I felt it took a shot at the Star Wars community. Maybe not, and it wasn't because they didn't like Star Wars. It truly wasn't because they didn't like Star Wars. That's their own opinion. But that's me. That's what I thought. John, I know you're on the total opposite side of this thing, but I'd love to hear your opinion on it.
So last night, I had not yet seen this footage, right? And last night I get home and I see a avalanche of tweets from people saying, John, have you seen this bitch? And like all this stuff about how angry, like people were, the tweets I was reading and the posts I was reading on Facebook and everywhere from the Star Wars fan community was like, this horrible thing had just happened, like this huge attack on the Star Wars fan community, and my blood started rising. Right. In typical John Campy fashion, before I even saw the video, my blood started rising.
Right.
I was telling Kristian this morning. I kid you not, this is the God's honest truth, and this is embarrassing. Before I even found the link to click over to watch that video, I was already planning my address on Movie Talk the next morning. I was even thinking about getting a hold of Dennis. Say, Dennis, crack out the teleprompter because I'm going to write this thing out articulately. I'm going to slam these sons of for coming after the Star Wars fans, because I'll tell you what, everybody knows I'm a big sports fan. And so when I'm driving in my car, I listen to sports radio. I don't usually listen to music. I listen to sports talk radio. And there was a popular sports guy a couple of years ago who went on this rant, who was attacking Star Wars fans, went on and on about how they're just a bunch of grown babies and all this kind of stuff. And you know what? I never listened to that guy again because he truly overtly attacked Star Wars fans. So now my blood's getting up. I'm hearing about this Fox thing, and I'm ready to, tomorrow I'm going to tear this woman apart. I'm going to tear this Fox thing apart. So I find the link and I start watching it, okay? And it gets about 2 minutes in. I'm like, oh, all right. And then gets to the end of the video. I'm like, I must have the wrong video, because there was absolutely nothing even resembling offensive in the video, to the point that I actually thought, I've got to have the wrong one. I started looking through all the tweets again to see if there was another video clip that everybody's actually really angry about. And behold, there was none. They were people who didn't like and don't get and don't understand Star Wars. And guess what? They spoke as people who didn't like, didn't get, and don't understand Star Wars. I found the tone of the conversation. Look, were they acting kind of douchey? Sure, yes, they were acting kind of douchey. But you don't think it was
offensive? No. It wasn't offensive. It was arrogant. And my thing was, so what? But because the thing is that you don't bring in one guy. You don't bring in one guy who's just sitting there. And then what they do is the two of them sat together and they just pinpoint and they asked him a question and then they jumped on it.
And this is different from how Fox does what?
It's not. But that doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it right.
But in seeing how Fox does this all the time, it was by far the most benign, neutral, least offensive thing I have ever seen them do on Fox, and I've seen them do a lot of it badly on Fox. Trust me. So was it a little bit douchey? Yes. But remember, my background is I've got a sports broadcaster that I used to love listening to who did come out and rip Star Wars fans and attack Star Wars and say, you are a loser if you do this. And I stopped listening. And so then when I turned to this, expecting to hear the same kind of vile. And look, I got to say this. I put this post up on Twitter, and I stand by this. When did the Star Wars fan community become such a bunch of weak, fragile, whiny little babies? So what? There's some guy on TV who doesn't like Star Wars, spoke a little bit disparagingly about it, came across as across as rude to the person they were talking to. But this whole fiction that I saw on Twitter first about how they were destroying and coming after and attacking Star Wars fans. And the other thing I put on my tweet was, look, the only way they were attacking or said anything offensive is if you go into that video wanting to be offensive. Because look, I was ready to come out here and rip them apart, and there was simply nothing offensive. If you can't take that tiny little thing that was on the Fox thing, then your Star Wars fandom can't hold up to much.
But I don't think that that's what a lot of, at least the people that I were dealing with last night, the biggest problem wasn't the fact that they were going after Star Wars and saying bad things about Star Wars. It was, first of all, who they chose to represent the Star Wars fan community.
Sure.
And then what they said to him on it, and what they were, even when the woman turned to him and she's like, oh, this, I'm going to let you have your little movie or whatever she said.
Yeah.
And then they kind of looked down. They looked down on him, and the thing is, I would like to see someone like a Kevin Smith or yourself or me have a conversation with those people
Absolutely.
to represent the voice. So to what you're saying, as far as like people saying this is offensive, and yeah, I don't agree with that it's offensive. I don't think it's offensive. I think that it was bullying in a way. I really do. I think it was a way to where they was taking one particular voice and like just saying, well, we talk about news, so we're elitist now. We're gonna say what everyone like, that Star Wars thing with the little cannons and the lightsabers. Why don't they get some new lightsabers? And it's the arrogance that came across of it. It was not, to me, I'm not coming at it of a point of like, this is offensive and oh my God, I can't believe they're talking about Star Wars. Say it's horrendous. Say it's terrible. But whoever you're talking to, have a nice talking points. Have a debate with them about it. I just thought that because it's a national news broadcast, whatever you want to say about Fox News, it's a national platform. So if you're going to have someone to choose to speak about it, let the man talk. Let him have a conversation. Plus, this guy thought Harrison Ford was dead or was making a really bad joke. Not the guy that should have been representing us as Star Wars fans.
Yeah, well, we might have made that joke on the same joke on our show.
Maybe.
But here's the other thing too. I came back to this, and this is where I think there's a little bit of hypocrisy involved with us. And I understand where you're coming. You're not coming from the same place as a lot of the tweets that I saw.
And I understand
online.
who you're going after to where you're saying there.
Here's the thing, and this is what we talked about this morning. I said, if the exact same conversation was happening, the exact same conversation with the exact same tone and the exact same, misbehavior a little bit, but it was the two Fox people talking about, Justin Bieber, the new Justin Bieber documentary. I mean, that's fun. This is for kids. This is for everything. If you want to be dumb and go see, and they didn't even say if you want to be dumb, but I'm just saying, you want to be dumb, do that. And then the Justin Bieber fans lost their minds and got angry.
She called people freaks. Yeah. She said freaks.
Sure, I've said freaks. I've called ourselves freaks from time to time.
Differently the way you say it.
Maybe, but it was so mild and benign. But here's the thing. Star Wars fans, we would have looked at those Bieber fans and said, there was nothing to, you're getting your knickers tied up in a twist over that? That's what we would have said. But because it's Star Wars, because it's the thing we like, we lost our minds. And I'll be honest with you. I said this to you off air. I'll say it on air because I stand by this. I was honestly a little bit embarrassed by the Star Wars fan community a bit. And I know there were a number of other Star Wars fans that are kind of embarrassed by the lack of fortitude that Star Wars fans, that a lot of us just fell apart and lost our minds over this insignificant, hardly offensive, a little bit douchey, yeah, but so what? So, we can take that, and the fact that we made an issue out of it, I think, is a bit embarrassing.
I'll take the other side of it. I was proud of a lot of the Star Wars fans. Some of the ones that you were talking about, to where if there's insults thrown in the way that they made it handle it, sure, but the way that for sticking up for the Star Wars fan and showing what Star Wars has meant to a community in general and what Star Wars meant, and then you had these arrogant people who were not even listening or trying to listen, and we didn't have the right voice out there explaining for us why. That's what I think.
We do all over the place.
But in this particular show,
but we should be big enough to brush it off. We should be big enough to brush this off.
It's a matter of how you're brushing it off. It's a matter of if you're talking, because I was not angry at all when I was tweeting out last night.
You weren't.
No, and I'm telling you,
she responded to, didn't she?
No, not to me. No, but there are portions of the people that you're talking about that I agree with you, that they're just, it's like, what? You don't like Wookiees? Sure. But then there's other people who are, I believe, coming from the same point of view that I am, that if you're going to have a debate with someone and you're going to say, if you're going to have and say, like, I know that there's something that you love, and I'm going to tell you to your face that I don't love it, I hope that you have the same respect for me. I'm going to let you talk about why you do love it, and you let me talk about why I don't. That's why we do what we do.
But now we're discussing Fox just acting like Fox.
Correct. But David, what do you think about this whole scenario?
I can see both sides. I've seen Fox News. If it was John, Kristian, Dennis, what's your stance on Obama? Fox would put a head here for one side, a head here for one side, and a head in the middle for the middle. And then they would debate. And the talking heads just go for half hour, blah, 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 blah. That's what the news does. That's what they do. If you and I were in that same seat, they would talk over us. John, you have a very...
They'd have a hard time talking over me, but they would try.
But they would try. And also, it's such big publicity. It's Fox News, it's #1 watched news channel in America.
Exactly.
Even that is still good publicity for Star Wars. And the thing is, with the whole geek community, we won. Television, we have the biggest franchises on TV. We have The Walking Dead. We have Game of Thrones. The geek community won. We're the highest paid actor in Hollywood. Robert Downey Jr. made $80 million off geek-based films, off comic book movies. We won. The Star Wars community has nothing to hang their heads about. They shouldn't be called
freaks for liking it.
No, they shouldn't be called freaks. But just look at her. And I guarantee. Let me say one thing. I guarantee the host, the blonde. I hate to call her the blonde. I'm not trying to be mean. I don't know her name. I guarantee that if she got a call, a note or something, like, hey, do you want to go to a premiere? You bet your butt she would be in her finest dress going to that premiere because Clooney's going to be there.
Right.
Pitts
she retweeted, and she tweeted out, and she's like, oh, I'm just kidding. I have nothing but love for Star Wars
I'm sure
fans.
she wants to go to the premiere and hang out with all the big fishes out there. I mean, it's just what Fox does.
Yeah.
I don't think we should hang our heads about anything.
All right, that was nice and heated. But
we should get our own political thing going right here.
I would love to hear. Listen, and I've seen and look. I saw a lot of people feeling the same way John felt last night on Twitter. I saw a lot of people feeling the way that I felt. There are a lot. It's a split. It's a split thing. So that's what the council's here for. That's what the comment section is for. Would love to hear what you guys think. Where do you stand on this? Like, give us and again, do what we were talking about. Be cordial Star Wars fans and have a conversation about it. Don't name call. Don't do any of that stuff. Have a conversation. Are you more on the side of where I'm coming from? Are you more on the side of where John's coming from? Do you have your own point of view on it? Comment and let us know. And speaking of you guys, this is the point of the show where we take Twitter questions. It's tweet time. Throughout the week, you guys have been submitting #Collider Jedi Council. We have been going through them. We took a couple this week. David will read some on the air. David, what do we got first?
I'm going to start with Jim Wiesel.
Nice.
He says, since episode 7 will kill it in this December, which he's right, is there a chance they move episode 8 and or 9 to December as well?
I don't think they will move episode 8 unless Rian Johnson begs and pleads because he needs more time. I think that they really want to do May. I think that what I hope that they do, and I think that they're going to do, is they're going to put the saga films in May, the Star Wars date, and then the anthology films will hit in December because they're going to see how much money this makes, and it's kind of like the new frontier now, the new summer season, if you will. But I also think, and I still stand by this, within the next few years, and if it'll happen every year, I don't know, but you're going to start to get 2 Star Wars movies a year. And I think one will hit May and one will hit December.
You think so? You're saying every 6 months then in the future, possibly?
Not every 6 months. No, I just think that there will be. Because my thing is, like, let's say
2 a year.
It depends.
Right.
It depends. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that it's possible that we get 1 year with 2 movies, and then the next year is 1 movie. I don't think it's going to be like a Marvel thing where it's a mandate where we have to have 2 or 3 a year. I just think that if let's say, and it doesn't make sense that there'll be a sequel to this movie, but let's say Rogue One is just a hit beyond words. And they want to make another one, okay? And they're like, well, that was great. We can't believe how they responded. Look how much money that movie made. We got to make Rogue 2. And they want to get it out. From the way that they have it now planned out, you're not going to get the sequel until like 2020, 2021 because you have so many different things coming out. But if they were like, well, you know what? We've got episode 9 coming out in May of 2019 or whatever it is. Let's put Rogue 2 in December. That I think is inevitable. Because of the other things, the anthology films with maybe Obi-Wan or Old Republic, there's just so much material. But John, do you think there's a chance that they can move Episode 8 to December?
Highly unlikely. I'm not going to say no chance because anything's possible, but highly, highly unlikely. You're right. Star Wars is going to crush in December, but it was going to crush no matter you put in January, February, March, April, May, June. It doesn't matter. The people at Lucasfilm are very, very smart. The people at Disney are very, very smart. They're very strategic. They know why they want to put these movies in these. Now, I disagree. I don't think we're going to see a point. We've talked about this before, where we're going to see 2 movies a year. I don't think so. Okay. But you know. Think so. Yeah. At any rate, won't fall over a shock if they do. But I do believe they're going to do what you are saying. I believe we're going to see anthology films drop in December. I believe we're going to see saga films drop in May. And I probably think that's the way it's going to run for the foreseeable future.
I like that because it makes it feel like a seasonal thing.
Yeah.
You know, right before summer, like around Memorial Day, you know, we're going to get new Star Wars, and then you know what's the phrase for them?
Anthology and saga.
Anthology and saga, and then you know, in Christmas time, we're gonna get those. I mean, I think it's like brings in the seasons.
Yeah,
could be cool.
Season. Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Okay, we are going to Thorsten Eller. Sorry, I butchered that. I'm sorry, Thorsten. I really apologize for that. Will you rewatch the 6 previous Star Wars movies and doing a special episode of Collider Jedi Council talking about them?
No, but. It was me, Kristian, and Schnepp. We're just talking before we came on set here about what we are going to do. Is we are going to. This isn't all in stone. Some of this might shift a little bit because we're still talking. But the general principle we're talking about is we're going to sit down and watch all 6 movies. And we are going to film ourselves watching all 6 movies with a little time code so you can follow along. And we are going to talk and give our commentary as fans throughout the film. This isn't a unique thing. This has been done by many other people, but a lot of people have been asking us to do it, and we've been thinking it would be a lot of fun to do. So we'll probably feature something on it on Jedi Council.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we'll talk about it for sure. I mean, we can even do a thing to where maybe it's I don't know, and I assume Mark will probably be there too. So
probably Mark, yeah.
It would be kind of like a mini Jedi Council anyway, too.
Just very long.
This is very long.
Very long.
It's the duration of the movies, too. And I think what's going to be so interesting and what I'm excited about is because we're going to do it right before the movie, within a couple of weeks before the movie comes out, and piecing things together and conversations and theories and stuff that we could have while watching this movie. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be exhausting. Especially watching the prequels. It's going to be exhausting, but I think it's going to be a huge amount of fun. And we got excited. The 3 of us were just getting excited, just even talking about the possibilities. So I think it's going to be a hoot.
All right, next one, Dave.
We're going to Umaguma on Twitter. Umaguma on Twitter ask, Yubnub or Victory Celebration? Yubnub?
Ah, man, I think Yubnub is catchy. But I think the Victory Celebration works better in the special edition for the celebration overall of the fall of Palpatine, and it just works better. But yeah, I actually do like the Yub-Nub song.
It's absolutely Yub-Nub. It's absolutely Yub-Nub. You know what really pissed me off with that celebration thing? They try to pass it off as if it was the Ewoks playing it.
Right.
It doesn't fit.
No.
It doesn't fit at all. Yub-Nub totally is better for that, especially when they're using the heads of their vanquished enemies as bongo drums. I told you, man, Ewoks, do not mess with Ewoks. Yub-Nub all the way. Look, if they played Yub-Nub, if the special features did this, if they played Yub-Nub during all the stuff on Endor, and then it faded and turned into Celebration thing as they then went around the galaxy, I could have lived with that. But the fact that they were playing that piece as if the Ewoks just didn't do it felt so out of place.
David?
I'm going to go I like the celebration, the victory celebration. I like going to seeing the different worlds and seeing what's going on, seeing the Emperor, the Palpatine, statue being pulled down. I mean, the song's cute, but I kind of like, that's one thing from the special edition I actually really enjoyed.
Okay, 2 more.
We're going to Anthony Kincart asks on Twitter, my son was Kylo Ren for Halloween, and no one knew who he was. Will Disney lose ticket sales due to lack of awareness?
I promise you, sir. I promise you. Lots of people knew who your son was. Yeah. And as we get closer to Star Wars The Force Awakens,
everyone
more
will know.
Yeah,
if you go back here, those same people who didn't know in December, they will. And the thing is, it's certainly not going to, it hasn't her ticket sales already because it's
Already
broken
breaking
records.
every record.
Yeah, so I think that it's a case like there's not. And I don't know where you live, but there's some people who look. Tiffany Smith was on the show not too long ago and said that she went to Disneyland with a bunch of guys. Didn't even know there was a new Star Wars movie being made.
She needs new friends.
Yeah, there are a lot of people out there that may not be even aware of certain characters. They're not tuned in like we are, and they might not know who Kylo Ren is, but they know Star Wars is coming out maybe, and they want to go see the movie. And then they do, and then everyone will know. It's. I was thinking about this the other day. It's amazing that so many people do know who Kylo Ren is. We haven't even seen anything in the movie.
We haven't seen a single thing from
No.
him. We haven't seen the movie yet, and yet so many people know who he is.
Right. So that's what I would say. But what
And
do you
families
do?
are embracing it. I think all three of us were at Kamikaze this past week there, and we got to see this. It was great family dress as Han, Leia, Princess Leia in her white outfit that you see in Episode 4, and then little Kylo Ren was their son. He couldn't have been more than maybe 3 or 4 years old. The cutest kid ever, just posing. He had the lightsaber and everything. Kylo Ren suit built just for him. It's at least at Kamikaze Con at the Los Angeles Convention Center. People know who he is.
I should.
You know who he
Speaking
is.
of Halloween costumes, I should point this out too. In Canada, we just had our new federal elections. We just elected a new leader. Justin Trudeau is now the new Prime Minister of Canada. He's the son of one of the most popular prime ministers in the history of Canada, Pierre Elliott Trudeau. Anyway, Justin Trudeau just got elected Prime Minister, and he put out on Instagram and on Twitter like his family trick or treating, and he was Han Solo, his wife was
that's
Princess
awesome.
Leia, his kids were Star Wars characters.
That's great.
It's
Canada
people
is
know.
on the
People know.
path.
I
ladies and
saw that.
gentlemen.
Yeah,
People know.
This is the person you want in office.
And then you're going to see it too. Is like once like all like the fast food chains start getting in on it, you're going to see the merchandising. I mean, it's going to be everywhere. You can't escape it.
All right, last one.
Eric Hurst at Eric Hurst on Twitter writes, as stupid as it is, are you guys going to talk about the phenomenon that is Darth Jar Jar on Collider Jedi Council?
No.
We are going to talk
It's a
about
phenomenon, though. We got to talk about it.
It is.
Got to give it credit.
It is pure idiocy. It is one of the dumbest things that I've seen so far that's out there, and I almost think that it's like a mock on all these theories that have been going around with Luke as Kylo Ren and everything else that's been happening. But if you don't know what this is, somebody on Reddit came up with a theory that Jar Jar wasn't as dumb as you thought. That Jar Jar possibly was Snoke. That Jar Jar was the one, if you look back into everything that was happening, that this, because he gave like shots in Phantom Menace where he does this perfect time flipped and he's able to move just like a Jedi, and how he forgot a lot about the Clone Wars stuff that happened as well too in the TV show. But there's all these, but people are buying into this. I can't tell you how many tweets were like, wait a minute, this could be serious. And I said, go to bed. Like this, I mean, come on, man.
I find that offensive, Kristian.
It is, but you should. But it's like to where Jar Jar. I could, even if this theory, I'll humor you. Even if this theory was okay, wait a minute, Jar Jar Binks was a mastermind all along.
An idiot savant.
He was an idiot the whole way through. He was pretending like he was this moron, and he brought down the Jedi.
Galactic Empire.
He did it all. He put Palpatine in power. He did all this stuff. Man, even if it was a brilliant theory, the second he is revealed as Snoke, tomatoes start get thrown at the screen. People start throwing things, walking out, leaving. It becomes a garbage fest. It is pure lunacy. Do you even want to address it?
Okay, I'll say this. The article itself is brilliant. It's fun.
It's well researched.
It's
Yeah, it
well
was.
researched
Yeah,
and thought
definitely.
out to put together as a ridiculous thing. It's brilliant that way.
Yeah.
The scary thing becomes the fear and the terror comes in when there were people actually believing it.
Every other tweet. Do you guys buy into this?
I mean, it just no. And I'll take it one step further. You're saying if it happened on screen and it was Snoke is revealed and it's Jar Jar Binks, people. No, I'm coming back into the studio. I'm taking, go wide shot. I'm taking all these toys, all the ones on those walls and those walls, the other ones in my office. I'm putting them in a pile in the middle of this floor. I am pouring gasoline on them.
Yeah,
I am
right.
burning on them. I'm defecating on them.
Right.
I'm doing all of that, me and a million other fans around the universe.
And plus, JJ says he's going to put Jar Jar's bones in the sand.
desert. Yeah, there's no Jar Jar. So I mean, it's almost ridiculous we're talking about it. I thought it was a clever, fun,
Yeah.
kind of weird little hey guys, what if Jar Jar? I mean, it was really cool.
It was well thought out.
I never thought for a second when I read it that the guy was trying to come across as serious at all. But the fact that so many people began to take it serious, you know what they are? Freaks.
Oh,
What'd you think?
perfect story for Marvel Comics. What else? Or sorry,
What if?
What if? I would read that issue.
I would
read that issue.
I would
It's a
totally
great
read
issue.
that.
Yeah,
A fun
what if, yeah.
fan fiction thing, like to hear, like just to see how it would go down. Of course, I'd be reading it. Putting in the actual canon. Oh no, thank you.
You might read, be like, this is actually pretty good.
Right.
That could be funny. It would be great. Somebody make that. I would seriously read that. It would be fun.
What a fun episode! A lot of passion, a lot of feel, a lot of anger. There's a lot of great stuff on today's episode. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to David. He is the Grand Moff Griffin. I just upgraded you to Tarkin. Grand Moff Griffin. Where can they find you on Twitter?
You can find me on Twitter at GriffinDE. And don't forget, I'm with John Campion, the Flash Recap Show on Tuesdays, and the Star Wars Rebel Cap show on Wednesdays.
Obi-Wan Kenobi, John Campia, where can they find you?
You guys can find me on Facebook, on Twitter, obviously, on the Flash Recap Show, as we all mentioned already here today, on the Rebels Recap Show, Movie Talk Monday through Friday as well. And you can follow me on Facebook and on Twitter simply at John Campia.
And guys, before I give you my stuff, one thing I'd like to ask you to do, what I found that so many, and first of all, to all the Collider Jedi Council fans that showed up at the Collider panel at Kamikaze, thank you. I was really taken back with how many of you are out there, and like I mentioned before, what this show means to you. Thank you from myself and the other council members. It really, really means a lot to us. And the other thing is that what I've realized, you guys have been telling other Star Wars fans, if they don't know about the show and you think that they might enjoy it, share it with them. Tell them about it. Let your other Star Wars fans know that we're here talking Star Wars. If you want to follow me, you can follow me at Kristian Harloff on both Twitter and Instagram. Like the guy said, you can also find me on the Rebels Recap on Wednesdays. If you haven't watched the interview with Freddie Prinze Jr., I beg you to watch it. It's one of my favorite episodes that we've done so far. He was such an amazing guest and really knows his Star Wars. But hashtag Collider Jedi Council. Try to get your questions on the air, and we'll see you next week.
And just remind one more time about the link in the description.
Yes, and if you want to see the link in the description for Daniel, make sure you go and check on the bottom there, and you can find a way to fund his medical bills and learn a little more information.
And make it happen
there.
with this film.
Make it happen, guys. So join us next week for another episode of Collider Jedi Council. May the Force be with you, always.
Hey guys, if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help you stay up to date with everything we've got going on here at Collider.